Now look, if you're suffering from insomnia, I'm gonna give you 5 tips today to show you exactly what you need to do to start getting some better sleep. What's up guys? Coach Eric Bowling here. In today's video, let's really figure out what do we need to do to get better sleep. So now the first thing that I suggest is to implement melatonin. Now, melatonin is a very natural and safe thing for you to take. Melatonin is a hormone that your body naturally produces as things start to get dark. So as the sun starts to go down, your body should be producing melatonin. The only problem is because we're exposed to so many blue lights and artificial lights, your body has a hard time producing melatonin. And so what I always suggest for people who are suffering from insomnia, for people who have trouble sleeping, is to start with melatonin. And then as you start to implement the remainder of these tips and you start developing better sleep habits, then you can slowly start to wean off the melatonin. Now, research has shown that just 2 milligrams of prolonged release melatonin was not only effective in decreasing the amount of time it took for people to fall asleep, but also in increasing the total sleep quality the person experienced without any withdrawal effects. Now, the second thing that I suggest is actually to start wearing these things. No, these aren't reading glasses, they're blue light blocking glasses. And see, here's the thing. We are exposed to so many artificial lights throughout the day that blue light can actually increase cortisol production. Now, if you're not really sure what cortisol is, it's pretty much a hormone that's secreted that helps us stay alert and active and to be awake. And when the sun comes up in the morning, that is the main thing that's supposed to be produced to help you get up and start your day. And as the sun starts to go down, the idea is, hey, now your body starts to decrease cortisol production and it should be increasing melatonin production. The problem is we live in a world now where we are so exposed to screens and blue light that usually most people just aren't stopping their cortisol production and they continually jack it up at night. So something as simple as implementing blue light blocking glasses like the ones that I have right now can be a very effective strategy in just reducing that overall intake of blue light exposure, which will help you start to get better sleep. Now, tip number 3, the third thing that I highly suggest that you start doing is implement something known as binaural beats. So higher frequencies are usually associated with being more active, and the lower the frequency gets, it's more associated with relaxation and eventually deep sleep. So what you can do is you can just put on theta waves about an hour or 2 before you go to sleep and just keep it in the background. Now, theta waves are something that have been shown to slowly start to increase relaxation the longer that you are exposed to them. And then if you wanted to take this even a step further, you could go ahead and fall asleep with headphones in. Ideally, I would suggest having wireless headphones so that your phone doesn't have to stay in bed with you. And you can put on delta wavelengths to go to bed. Now, delta is the lowest frequency at least that I know about. There might be ones even lower than that, but delta is the frequency, which is below 4 hertz usually, that'll help to promote more REM sleep. Now, tip number 4, this one's pretty hard to implement, and that is about 3 hours before bedtime, try and decrease the total amount of technology you are exposed to. So if you're on your phone 30 seconds before bed, it's probably not the best thing to promote sleep. So what I highly suggest doing is just slowly start to decrease the total amount of technology exposure as you get closer to your bedtime. Now, here's the thing. For most people, that is not possible. And trust me, I get it. Sometimes I find myself working on videos late at night and even filming late at night. And so the thing is, how do we, start to decrease technology exposure when we live in a world that is completely filled with technology? I mean, everything that we do now, we are being exposed to electronics and technology. So how do you decrease that exposure? Well, the way that I suggest doing it is pretty simple. Most phones already have a night mode active, so just make sure that you're turning that on. And the same thing is true for your desktop or your laptop or whatever you're using. Just make sure all your devices have that turned on. So now that's about 3 hours before bed. As you start to get closer to 2 hours, what I would just highly suggest is just make sure that you are turning all notifications off. So most phones have a do not disturb mode or a bedtime mode. I highly suggest turning that on at least 2 hours before you go to bed. And that's just gonna decrease how much distractions you start to have. It'll also help to decrease your total time used on the phone or on your computer. And then as you start to get closer to bedtime, as it's about an hour prior to you falling asleep, that's when I suggest usually shutting off things and try and read a book. Okay, I don't know if you've ever heard about those things before, and no, I'm not talking about through your Kindle. Try and pick up a normal book and just read it. And the reason why is because it will help shift your neurotransmitters from producing super amounts of dopamine and just getting back into that serotonin and GABA state. And now serotonin and GABA are neurotransmitters that your brain is naturally producing, and they're usually responsible for rest and relaxation. Whereas dopamine production is pretty much the thing that is giving you the energy and the drive to seek out new things because you feel well rewarded. So if you're playing games before you go to bed, or you're watching the latest Wonder Woman on TV, you're probably going to be jacking up dopamine as well as adrenaline, and you're gonna have a very hard time falling asleep. So all of these tips pretty much start to develop this term known as sleep hygiene. And that's really where tip number 5 comes in, which is making a routine out of all of this. You see, at the end of the day, a lot of these tips don't really mean much if they're not part of your daily routine. And just like anything else in life, if you don't really have a routine built around these things, then consistency is not there, and it doesn't really make sense for your body to adapt to this new schedule. So the most important thing, the most important tip out of all of this is to really just pick a time for you to go to bed. Pick a time for you to wake up. So let's say, for example, you can't go to bed any earlier than 11:30 p.m. That's fine. If that's the time that's like, hey, that's the earliest I can go to bed, then that's fine. Let's just say that's the time that you set. And let's say, for example, the latest that you can wake up is 6 a.m. because you have to go to work or whatever it may be. Well, you may not be getting an optimal quantity of sleep, but if you build a cycle out of that and your sleep becomes a regular pattern, you will be getting better sleep. Usually what I've found before in clients and people that I've worked with, and when I'm trying to help people get better sleep, the first thing that I find in common with almost everyone who has poor sleep is that they have inconsistencies in their sleep schedule. And if your sleep schedule is all over the place, that is the number one place that I suggest that you focus on. Now look, if all else fails and none of these tips help, you can try implementing something that I have called the sleep cocktail.
Hold on to your butts.
Now the way this sleep cocktail works is pretty simple. You're gonna go 3 grams of L-theanine, 500 milligrams of oleamide, and then last but not least, 600 milligrams of ashwagandha. Now, once again, make sure that if you're going to take this, that you're already preparing for bed, because it will knock you out. So take it at your own risk, and make sure that if you do take it, that you are not going to be driving a vehicle or operating any machinery. Now, pretty much these are adaptogens and also nootropics that will help with producing more GABA and making sure that you are falling asleep. It's highly effective. I've used it before when it's like, absolutely nothing is working to help me fall asleep. So it is something that I suggest only using as like a last resort. So look, what I suggest is try some of these things out and then let me know, did they improve your sleep? And if they did, just come back here and let me know in the comments, because I really want to know. A lot of this stuff has research backing it up, but a lot of it is also anecdotal that I've given people before or that I've used myself and I have seen tremendous results with. So I want to know if it works for you. Let me know. And look, if you guys like this video, go ahead and let me know by hitting that like button, and also make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel, and also hit that little bell icon so that you're notified when these videos drop. And as always, guys, stay strong, and I'll see you next time.